Most of your success in this course is going to depend on how well you guys work as a team. In industry, some of the biggest breakthroughs have come from tight-knit, motivated teams working in sync. And some of the worst failures have been from teams that could not get aligned. So, because of this, researchers have been studying team dynamics for decades, trying to understand what makes teams succeed. And one influential framework comes from a researcher named Bruce Tuckman, who outlined the stages that most teams go through. You'll find his original paper uploaded in my courses, and you probably need to read it. So in there, you'll read about 4 stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Each stage comes with its own set of challenges, and knowing where your team is over the course of the semester can help you move forward a lot better, a lot faster, and more effectively. So up until now, most of your school projects have been with teammates who have nearly the same skills as you because you all took the same courses. But in this project, just like in industry, teams are made up of specialists. 1 or 2 people will lean towards UI, others will be working more on back-end programming or be more of a specialist with web work or integration. And here's the important part, is that not everyone will be working equally at the same time at various stages during the semester. Some parts of the project require certain skills at certain times, so workloads will shift. And at certain times, one person may be slammed while someone else has nothing to do. And that's normal. That's how industry works. The key is knowing where you are in the process and how to adjust, and sometimes step outside your own comfort zone to help a teammate with what they're working on. In industry, nobody gets to sit idle when a project starts to slow down. Usually, you're juggling with several projects at once, shifting your focus whenever needed, and you'll have something similar here in your senior project. You've got other courses that have their own demands, and some semesters the heavy lifting happens later in the semester, which means you can plan to push harder on this course earlier when things may be a little lighter elsewhere. So moving on, one of the strongest predictors of success is trust. When team members trust each other, they share ideas openly and challenge each other respectfully and admit mistakes early enough to fix them. But without trust, people hold back and they avoid conflict until it explodes, and small issues snowball into big ones. So another common pitfall is unclear roles. In other words, who's doing what and who owns which decision, and how you can avoid duplicated work or dropped balls. Successful teams set clear expectations from the very start, and that doesn't mean locking people into rigid boxes. It means knowing who's accountable and who provides support for every step of the project. Now let's talk about conflict, because conflict in a team isn't just inevitable, it's actually a necessary thing. But the type of conflict matters. You've got task conflict, where you debate ideas and question assumptions, and all that can make a project stronger. But personal conflict, where you attack people instead of ideas, tends to tear teams apart. So be really careful with the words you use when discussing your ideas, especially in team meetings. You should use phrases like I have another idea instead of I have a better idea. And when someone else says something that you just don't think is going to work, try words to the effect of help me understand, and then let them talk it through. Often they'll arrive at the same conclusion that you did, which is always better than shooting them down. Now when it comes to decision making, there's always a few approaches. Number 1 is consensus, where not everyone has to love the decision, but everyone can live with it, and that's the gold standard right there. Second best is majority vote, which is quick, but leaves some people on the team disappointed. You might ask, so why do we care? Is because some people who don't buy into the decision are less apt to be enthusiastic about carrying it out, and that's just human nature. The third type of decision making, which is definitely not very good, is minority vote, which occurs when only a small number of people from the group show up to make the decision on behalf of people who aren't even there. And that's risky, since absent teammates might not buy into the decision, or they might even possibly revolt later. And then finally, there's always the authority type of decision, where you hand over decisions to one person for the sake of expediency, which is definitely fast, but often needs constant oversight because not everyone supports what the one person is deciding on behalf of everyone else. So the lesson here is that the more people who feel ownership in the decision, the smoother the follow-through. So every team develops norms, which are the unwritten rules about how you operate. It could be as simple as always starting meetings on time or putting phones away during discussions, but you break the norm, like showing up late or not pulling your weight, and frustration in the team builds up really fast. Sometimes you'll even encounter like hidden agendas where someone may want to just pad their resume with some flashy feature or secretly slow things down to make another effort look better by comparison. So these situations aren't common, but they do happen. And the key is awareness and having honest conversations if you sense that something like that is happening. So back on the Tuckman principles of forming, storming, norming, and performing. So how do you apply all this? First, you have to recognize the stage that your team is in. Each one needs a different kind of leadership and attention. Second, talk openly about roles and expectations, and don't assume everyone knows exactly what's happening at any given moment. You need to write everything down. And third, you set the tone for trust, and that means showing up prepared, being reliable, and respecting each other. And finally, don't avoid conflict, but use it. Push each other's ideas, but keep it professional. Remember to monitor your own phrasing really carefully. To help with all this, you'll create a team contract for this course. We'll talk about this later in the next class. It'll be your chance to spell out how you'll handle meetings and communications and deadlines and conflict and what happens if someone doesn't follow through. So every team before you has faced all of these challenges, and you will too. The contract is how you prepare for them in advance. So take it seriously because you will end up relying on it. So in this course, you'll be graded on more than just your final project. How you work as a team matters. How you handle conflict matters. And how you support each other matters. If you want your project to succeed, don't just focus on the code, the design, or the research. Focus on the team, because at the end of the day, the team is the project.